What was America like during 9/11? That is the subject of today's video. So the other day I was on a Discord server where I was talking to people who were part of Gen Z, and one of the questions I got asked, which I found really fascinating, was what was 9/11 like? And so instead of just having my answer just be confined to that one little conversation I had the other day, I thought, why not just make a video talking about what was 9/11 like? So after 9/11 happened, I feel like America at that point reached peak patriotism. There wasn't enough disdain in our leaders for people to really feel otherwise. Yes, what Bush did with the Patriot Act was bad, but 98 U.S. senators voted in favor of it. Only Russ Feingold voted against it. And Bernie Sanders voted against it, but he was part of the House of Representatives at the time, not the U.S. Senate. And Russ Feingold's career died less than a decade later. So him standing up for the right political position on that issue did not save his political career. If anything, it might have hurt it for all I know. So that's kind of just American politics in general back then, is that Americans were just had more faith in leadership. They looked to our leaders to actually govern and do stuff. There wasn't as much disdain for leadership back in like 2001 or 2002. Bush's approval rating after 9/11 was at around like 89%, some insane figure. Like I'm not even joking. It literally was taught in my US history class I took back when Bush was president. And I think that's kind of interesting too, is that I was going to school back when 9/11 happened. And that provided me a lot of insight about the event from a very young age. I remember literally just waking up one day and going downstairs and just seeing my dad stare at the television screen of the Twin Towers, like just on fire basically. And so I went upstairs, I ate my cereal, went to school. I had a conversation with my science teacher at the time. That was a brief conversation about how this is not a very good day, sort of a thing. And what's weird, there's almost no actual acknowledgement. And this was back when I was in 5th grade. I wasn't like I think 5th grade, actually. No, actually. No, I was in 6th grade when this happened. Oh, that makes it even weirder. I was in a 6th grade classroom and no acknowledgement 9/11 was made. I find that so strange in hindsight. The only conversation I had wasn't like the science teacher I had at the time. It was the science teacher I had when I was in 5th grade. That's to be more accurate. Isn't that wild though? Isn't that wild though, to just kind of randomly realize that, oh yeah, I was in 6th grade and there's almost no discussion about the fact the country got attacked that day. I don't know, I feel like back then there were more efforts by adults to shield children from what's going on in the world, where there's less of that now because kids see everything on the internet. I mean, they literally see everything on the internet, including like some of the most explicit content. That's another thing too. I just feel like society back then cared more about like protecting kids from certain stuff compared to now. I don't know, we kind of treat children like shit in this country. Just something I've noticed. It used to be worse when I was younger, and far worse before I was born. I mean, kids being whipped by belts used to be more common back in the old 1950s, back when women couldn't get a bank account. They had to get a man's approval for a bank account. Society treated women like garbage in the 1950s. Society treated children like garbage in the 1950s. The only people who really were treated wonderfully were like white men, because they rigged the system in favor of themselves, and much of the politicians at the time were white men. But it seems like a lot of white old men, they do a lot of despicable stuff. Just something I've noticed. And how white men in positions of power politicized 9/11, it resulted in us losing a lot of freedom. It also resulted in people being okay with the Iraq War because they were terrified I mean, a lot of people felt legitimate fear. And you should, if you get attacked